down that corridor right there.
Oh my fucking god!
Make sure you keep looking. Another one, what? Okay, now I want you to keep...
There's a spider! There's a thing, Luke.
Lethal Company is the new game everyone's been talking about recently, and for good reason. This game is really funny, actually. Like, yes, it's marketed as a horror game, but have you seen clips of this game?
What the fuck is that? It's coming towards me!
Yeah, the developer Zeekers definitely knew what they were doing with this one. Now, for anyone who doesn't know already, Lethal Company is a co-op horror game released on October 23rd this year, that being 2023. Basically, you and your crew are tasked with exploring moons and the complexes that reside on them. You're mainly looking for scrap, but you can also run into some friendly faces, they just want to help. You can then sell the scrap to this company that you work for in exchange for some of that sweet cash. Every few days you have to have made enough money to reach a quota, and if you do, great, and if not, well...
Can't see to find the lights.
As you have not met the profit quota,
Wait,
your performance
Dewey!
has been deemed below standard.
I can't set the candles!
Welcome
love
to
you,
the
Greg.
disciplinary
I love
process.
you too! Go Robo!
But not in like a sexual way!
Yeah!
Now, the first thing I want to talk about with the game is the atmosphere. Of course, with Lethal Company being a horror game, the atmosphere is meant to be very moody and have a sense of dread, and the game does this very well. The main key that is used is actually the lack of information. Inside the facilities, it is extremely dark. Without a flashlight, there are some places where it is almost impossible to see. You can't see enemies or players around you. Even if you have a flashlight, there are steam leaks that pop up around the buildings that hinder sight even more. Along with that is the lack of auditory information. The first thing that comes into your mind is the proximity chat,
Yeah. I think that's how it works.
as you're only able to hear players that are close to you, unless you have a walkie-talkie. But even that goes beyond the sound design of the game. The ambient noises of nature and the buildings themselves can often be mistaken for other players and enemies. The visual and auditory lack of information leads to a sense of confusion and mystery that only helps enhance the horror atmosphere of the game. It doesn't need to have 4K amazing graphics to be scary. Obviously, if you've ever seen clips of the game or played it yourself, then you know that it is really fucking funny.
Oh, I see a red dot.
That was not a hubcap.
But I just took a ton of time explaining why the game is so scary. How can a game that is literally meant to scare you just be so hilarious? Well, that's where I think the genius of Lethal Company comes into play. Specifically with the tools the developer gives to the players. You see, nothing in the game is inherently funny by itself. Sure, you can find air horns for scrap and buy a romantic dinner table for your ship. But none of those things in a vacuum is really going to make someone laugh. There are two main variables that do though, those being the contrast of the game and the players themselves. When you give these tools, such as the air horn you can find, the romantic dinner table for your ship, the ability to dance and point at things, and so many more things, When you give all of those things to the player, they will find ways to make them hilarious. I think back to many times that I've played with my friends, and we all started dancing in the ship after an eyeless dog just murdered half our crew, or something along those lines. There's not a single joke written by the developer, but instead, they've allowed the players to make their own humor throughout the game by giving them these tools. Now, you may be thinking that there are a lot of other games that do this too, and you'd be right. But I think there's one other reason that Lethal Company does this so well, and that is the contrast of the game's atmosphere to the humor the players create. The contrast of the horror to the humor is an amazing way of creating an extremely enjoyable co-op experience. And if you have friends, this is definitely a game that you should check out.